Hi, my name's Corey Gwynn from Team 7 in the HCI 596 course called Emergency Practices in HCI, being taught by Michael Oren. Um, my group includes Thomas Kadovic from New York, Brandy Walden from Southern California, and myself, Corey Gwynn, also from Southern California in San Diego. And we set out to redesign the service of bars. So, quick overview. Bars throughout history, very popular destination for adults, place to drink, socialize, eat some food, hang out, meet people, and very little has changed in the bar service model throughout history. There's a bar counter, a few bartenders, one or two, maybe a couple others if it's a big bar, and a big open space on the other side of the counter for people to hang out. And kind of the objective is to get up to the bar, place an order, have the bartender fill that order, and the customer pay for it, and away you go. The problem is when you get really large crowds in these big open spaces, it's difficult for the customers to get up to the bar. And this is a problem not only for the bartender, it's also a problem for the customer. So you kind of have this front of stage bottleneck with large crowds. Bartender can't keep up with the orders. You get this impression of bad service because now the customers are having trouble getting the bartender's attention because it's loud, it's crowded, they can't get up to the bar. And you also have this back of stage problem because now you have a bartender with hundreds or tens of customers trying to pay, and they have to keep track of the orders. Sometimes they open up tabs. So our key question here is, how can a bar's service model be redesigned in order to fuel a faster turning bar, smoother transactional experiences, and thus an overall enhanced customer satisfaction? We started out with some observations and reporting. We sampled 7 different bars located primarily in Southern California, but also Thomas in New York, checked out some bars there. And they all had the same theme, relatively small bar with a bar counter, 1 or 2 bartenders. And our main target group was young adults, professionals, young professionals, students, and then a sub-target group of middle-aged adults who basically just have the means to go out and have a good time. And we wanted to look at an equal number of men and women. No specific gender here was important. So the ages of 21 to 35 and 35 to 50 were these 2 groups. What we found out is that, interestingly, all people at a bar tend to use smartphones. People pull them out to have something to do when they're not talking to friends or if they're by themselves, regardless of their age. It seems like a lot of people have these now. And of course what we realize is people do at times wait quite a bit of time to get service and also to pay for it. I also interviewed a bartender, and we realized that they become frustrated with patrons who camp out at the bar. I mean, this is a problem not only for customers, but it's a problem for the bartender who wants to make tips and to bring money in for the bar. They can't do anything about this person there. They have to keep, providing a good service. It becomes an issue. All bartenders tend to use some kind of touchscreen register, and each bar has a different method for keeping tracks of tabs. The place I went to had an alphabetical order for credit cards, and if a customer wants to close it out, they just tell the bartender, I want to close my tab.
This is Brandy, and now we're going to take a look at the personas that we thought might be involved in a bar lounge situation. When we were originally looking at this, we considered the 20 or 30 something crowd to be our main audience, and that's represented here with Jessica. This is a person who will meet with friends for social occasions at a bar or lounge. She's probably pretty familiar with technology, carrying a smartphone with her. But we didn't want to exclude the other types of patrons who might come into a bar or lounge situation. This was represented by John. He's more of our middle-aged patron. He's somebody who is less familiar with technology, but may have a smartphone on him, may be familiar with how to do that kind of interaction. We didn't want to discount the bartender, who is a key actor in this service. Here it's represented by Erin. This is a person who's having to do a lot of multitasking in order to facilitate the bar situation from her end, but she also has to keep up a social environment, interacting beyond just taking orders and really having conversations with people. So we want to take all of these different persona into account when we're looking at our service, which leads us to the bar service model blueprint. It's all pretty straightforward. There's a lot of interaction that goes on between the bartender and the patron on the customer side. And that's where we identified some of the key failure points that were possible. The interaction there is when the bartender is going to the patron to get a drink order, but then has to turn around and facilitate the drink order within the computerized system for the bar. And this creates a wait time, an additional wait time for the patron. And then when the patron wants to check out, the bartender has to go back to that computerized system and process that information, handle any exchange of cash or credit card that occurs there. So these are some of the places that we looked and thought, all right, possible points of failure there. Now let's take a look from overhead at what the patron's experience could be in a bar situation. Here we have a patron basically coming in, finding a seat, ordering their drink, having their drink, asking to check out, and going ahead and leaving. It's all pretty straightforward from their end. But then we take a look at it from the bartender's point of view, and you can see there's a lot of interaction occurs for each patron. Going in, getting the drink order, entering the drink order into the computerized system, making the drink, giving the drink to the patron, interacting with them for a social reason, going back, seeing if they need anything, finding that the patron wants to check out, going back to the register, getting the bill, giving it to the patron, going back processing the bill, handing back any change or receipts to the patron. A lot of touch points occur for the bartender. So now we're going to take a look at some of the ways we thought we could solve possible failure points, possible lag times, and enhance the experience for all those involved.
So our proposed redesign, we started out with a storyboard to kind of get an idea of what it would look like, this new service model for bars. And we wanted to use smartphones because we knew people had those, and we wanted to make the process efficient so the bartender wasn't spending too much time giving attention to the customer. But we didn't want to take away from that experience where the bartender, provides the service to the customer. So this is an example. We have Corey, who is me, using a geolocation app on his smartphone when he gets to Bub's Dive Bar, and he checks in. The phone app tells him, he's got a remaining balance of $0, so he says, okay, well, I'll just reload the account, and the minimum amount you can add is $20, so he fills the account with this bar app. So it's a busy night, and he's having a tough time making his way to the counter to get attention, and it's very crowded up there. But he spots this service point at the bar, currently being used by David Smith, who is apparently the mayor of Bubs. Spent quite a bit of time there. So he decides to go ahead and place an order on the app, and it confirms the price, and lets him know that if he orders one more, he can get a free pitcher. So the app instantly, deducts the money from his account and tells him he'll be buzzed shortly when his order's ready. And he hangs out at the bar with his friends. So meanwhile, the computer system indicates to the bartender to make Corey's order and indicate when it's ready. And it gives a little bit of details about Corey. He visits frequently. These are his favorite drinks. Some details about him. And then when the order's ready, Corey gets a notice, and people see that it's Corey's turn to come up to that access point. He comes up, gets his drink. The bartender greets him by name, and he can hang out at the bar for a little bit until somebody else needs to come and use the access point.
So how do we achieve this new bar service design? Well, it begins by fundamentally changing the flow of the service itself. In the model that we'll propose, the patron themselves has greater control over certain aspects of the bar experience. They can order their drink themselves and also pay for the drink themselves before ever interacting with the bartender. This also helps the bartender because it reduces the multitasking nature of everything that they have to do, allowing them to focus more on making the drinks and keeping the social environment alive. Within the end user application for the patron, we have an ability to have the patron self-serve and thereby reduce their wait, but we also have an individualized experience. The convenience of not having to think about bringing cash or payment is fantastic because you can preload the application in order to be able to pay for the drinks as you go. You also will have the bar sending out notices about specials that you might not be aware of for certain types of drinks you'd be interested in. You can take advantage of these and thereby have a cost savings. And then there's the possibility of building in a loyalty points system so that if a patron is frequenting a bar very often, they can build up points that they can use towards purchasing free of charge drinks for themselves or even their friends. This helps to build a relationship. At first we thought the app that we were building might diminish the social aspect between the bar and the patron. But as it turns out, with all the conveniences that are built into it, it actually helps to establish more of a relationship between the bar and the patron.
This prototype is meant to showcase the bartender side of the application. As can be discovered by navigating the prototype, there are a few fundamental features to this version of the app. Most notably, the app makes use of a homepage on which there's an order queue. This queue collects all of the orders placed using the app by users and allows bartenders to work in a top-down fashion in completing the drinks. On the right-hand side of the app, there is a selection of options available to the bartender, including action buttons to indicate that a drink is ready, that a drink is canceled, or that a patron is a no-show, and a button that allows bartenders to send messages to specific clients. In addition to these features, there's also a centered user info column, which enables bartenders to see more about clients as they come pick up their ready drinks. This section features things like a client name, number of visits, number of orders, and past orders. This allows for an enhanced use of and retention of bar-related information about clients for conversational and transactional reasons. That is, for an enriched bartender-client interaction and thus for an overall enhanced customer experience. Finally, the bartender version of the app features things like the bartender station's wait time for drinks, hours worked, and tips earned. This diagram showcases our team's attempt at a sketch of the database/information architecture requirements of the bartender and user side of the app. The user table includes things that are specific to every user, like name, database ID, credit card info, account balance, access code, photos, likes and interests, and age. The bar table features things like bar name, bar location, drink IDs, bar description, and bar photos, things specific to every bar. Parts of both of these primary tables interact with secondary tables like the bar has user table. These secondary tables, in turn, pair together users and bars and are used to keep a tally of things like visits, drink orders, and other things like loyalty points. Drinks themselves also compose a secondary table from which different bars can pull information. As is obvious from the diagram, the overall aim of the infrastructure is to have a set base amount of sub or secondary tables from which primary user and bar database tables can pull and relate information from. In terms of our feedback, because of the two varying faces of the application, we decided to collect some feedback from both users and bartenders. Our users gave us 3 primary pieces of feedback that would be important to consider in any future iteration of the app. First, users express a desire and a preference to tip after receiving their order, rather than before, as has been designed in our prototypes. This makes sense, since users probably often tip based on the quality of their interaction with the bartender. Secondly, users are concerned about the integration of counter-side orders and app-generated orders. They wanted more information about how the algorithm, which decides the bartender's queue, would work. Last but not least, users were curious and it would need to be made more obvious in future prototypes as to how orders that are not picked up would be dealt with. They were concerned that this may cause an unforeseen build-up/problem point of its own. On the bartender side, there was mostly concern about 2 points. 1, bartenders were worried that they wouldn't get as many tips in this redesigned service model since users aren't getting change back and are also supposed to tip while paying or ordering. They concluded that the app needed more generally a better way to include tips. Secondly, bartenders also expressed a concern about drink pickup time and a possible problem point that could arrive from tardy clients or no-shows. This was similar to a piece of feedback expressed by their users themselves. All in all, the feedback from both users and bartenders do point out some kinks in the redesign that would need to be considered before seriously moving forward.